mo kí àwọn bàbá wa tí ọjọ́ pé lónìí yìí ọjọ́ ńláńlá ni ọjọ́ pàtàkì ni láti wo àwọn iṣẹ́ ìrìnbí tí wọ́n ti ṣe nínú ìwé tí ọmọ ìyá wa gbé jáde lọ́wọ́ jẹ́ pé fún wa ní ọ̀sẹ̀ àlékún alùbáríkà ọlọ́run mo kí àwọn bàbá wa imam male ọlọ́run jẹ́ pé fún wa aláàrẹ̀sọ́rọ̀ kẹrì mo wá kí gbogbo kálukú tó wà níbí yìí gbogbo ẹ̀yin bàbá wa àtẹ̀yin màmá wa àtẹ̀yin tẹjọ́ rẹ̀ mi àti ẹ̀gbọ́n àbúrò lọ́mọ ìyá àti lọ́mọ bàbá mo kí gbogbo yín pẹ̀lú kíkí Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mo dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ fọ́lọ́run. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Tó ní lónìí wọ́n dá ọjọ́ yìí ọjọ́ sì pé náà wá ní òun yọ̀ǹda fáwọn bàbá wa wípé kí wọ́n ní wá láti wá sọ̀rọ̀ díẹ̀ nípa tọ́píkì tí wọ́n fún mi. Kí Ọlọ́run ọba láíláí kó mọ́ sáà jẹ́ kí díẹ̀ tá a bá sọ náà kó ṣàǹfààní fún wa. Ala Muhammadu Rasulullah. Ìbò ni mo fi kọ́ ọba wù mí kí n fi Ìlọrin sọ ó lè jẹ́ pé mo fi kọ́ àmọ́ méjèèjì náà ní ìmọ̀ àmúlùmọ́lá ní ìmọ̀ àmúlùmọ́ ní ìmọ̀ ìlànà kẹgbà kẹtọ́ láti gbọ́dọ̀. Religious harmony, cultural preservation, and community service. The significance of Ilorin Emirate Pocket. Being lecture delivered at the launching of a book in honor of the Chief Imam of Ilorin Emirate, Sheikh Dr Muhammad Bashir, Imam Soliu, ON, titled Sheikh Dr Muhammad Bashir, Imam Soliu, ON, the spiritual orator. On Thursday, 27 November 2025, at Government House Banquet Hall, Ahmadu Bello Way, Ilorin, Nigeria. I'd like to take a few minutes to pay tribute to the honoree of today, the Chief Imam of Ilorin Emirate, Sheikh Muhammad Bashir Soliu, ON, by starting this lecture with a short poem that I wrote as part of the opening of my paper that was published in this book being launched here today. I invite you all to follow me in the performance. You are going to be following me by taking the refrain. Ìlú Ìlọrin, ìlú Àfà, Ìmáàmù Fúlàní, ìlú Òbíní, Ìmáàmù Fúlàní, àkọ́kọ́ ìmọ̀, Ìmáàmù Fúlàní, olórí òye, Ìmáàmù Fúlàní, Ṣéhù Bàṣírù. Bàṣírù Soliu, ìmáàmù àgbà, Bàṣírù Soliu, wòlíì Ọlọ́run. Can you say it after me, please? Ìlú Ìlọrin, ìlú Àfà, Ìmáàmù Fúlàní, ìlú Òníkì. Ìmáàmù Fúlàní, àkọ́kọ́ ìmọ̀. Ìmáàmù Fúlàní, olórí òye. Ìmáàmù Fúlàní, Ṣéhù Bàṣírù. Bàṣírù Soliu, ìmáàmù àgbà. Bàṣírù Soliu, wòlíì Ọlọ́run. Imam Fulani in Ilorin and Obiji. There's never been an exception, especially Sheikh Basiru, Imam Agba. Imam Bashiru achieved all firsts since his first turban. Ìlú Ilorin, ìlú Àfà. Imam Fulani, ìlú Obiji. Ìmáàmù Fúlàní àkọ́kọ́ ìmọ̀. Ìmáàmù Fúlàní olórí òye. Ìmáàmù Fúlàní Sheikh Bashiru. Bashiru Soliu ìmáàmù àgbà. Bashiru Soliu wọlé Ọlọ́run. His roots in the cultural threshold of the city of blessing. His schooling from Sheikh of blessing, Sheikh Kamal Mufti Ilom. His upbringing in thousands by the best parents, best of parents. His love for his city and the city's peoples from his heart of virtue. They asked Sardauna to be Prime Minister. He said he would rather become the area of Sokoto ancestry. If they had asked Muhammad Bashir to be president, he would have fought. He'd rather be Imam Aga in his village of Ibadan. Slogan by Thomas Bashir Soliu as Imam Aga, as if there's never been one before. Ìlú Ìlọrin, ìlú Àfà. Imam Fúlàní ti gbé wòlí yìí. Imam Fúlàní àkọ́kọ́ ìmọ̀. Imam Fúlàní olórí òye. Imam Fúlàní Sheikh Bashiru. Bashiru Soliu ìmáàmù àgbà. Bashiru Soliu ní Ọlọ́run. In Ilorin, the city of Oligi, Imam Àgbà is greater than president. Tell me which president is bigger than the Wali of Allah. Every Imam Fulani Ilorin has been the best. Muhammad Bashir elevated the best to become the super best. Imam Bashir achieved all first since his first turban. Ìlú Ìlọrin, ìlú Àfà. Imam Fulani, Imam Bashir brought a voice of clarity to recitation of Quran. No other Imam since the founding of Ilorin has brought such a pattern. When Bashir reads the Quran, he embodies even the tiniest sound of the book of miracles. When he prays, he hands in the chorus of Ami Meta Meta, Amina, 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 Ya Allah. Muhammad Bashir's birth of a Quranic voice matured for a long generation. Ami Meta Meta has become the doing of Ilorin prayers. Ìlú Ìlọrin, ìlú Àfà. Imam Fulani ti gbé wòlí yìí. Imam Fulani àkọ́kọ́ ìmọ̀. Imam Fulani olórí òye. Imam Fulani Sheikh Bashiru. Bashiru Soliu ìmáàmù àgbà. Bashiru Soliu wòlí Ọlọ́run. I did that to honor our father. Introduction. There's no better topic for public lecture in today's Nigeria, and in particular, in the state of Harmony, Kwara State, in this month of November 2025, than the issue of religious harmony and cultural preservation. Our father, the Chief Imam of the Ilorin Emirate, was apt in selecting this topic, and anything else will have largely be out of place for this great occasion. Given the current biting divisions among adherents of different regions in Nigeria, the wicked level of cultural subjugation, and the barbarism of certain religious and political leaders, inciting citizens against each other and creating chaos whose fire have been extremely difficult to quench. His letter of invitation to me, the Chief Imam of Ilorin said, and I quote, "You have been appointed as guest speaker, guest lecturer at the all-important event, which is aimed at drawing the attention of dignitaries to the advancement of peace and development in the Ilorin Emirate and Kwara State in general." Unquote. In a nutshell, what our father wants me to do is speak about our Ilorin Emirate in its culture and traditions, and in actions that he represents as Chief Imam, and that our eminent emir, the Martaba Saki Ilori, represent, advance peace and tranquility as a community of harmony. There's no doubt that our state is that the state of harmony due to the flowing nature of harmony that has spread from Ilori to the character and behavioral tendencies of the entire state. The Ilori ancestors, in establishing Ilori, ensured both in action and in words that they instill the culture of peace and harmony in Ilori. After we clear today the truth, there is no city or culture in Nigeria that has been bold and courageous to create a behavior for peace and a nature for harmony, which have become a habit among its people, like Ilori community. If there are, let anyone prove me otherwise. I challenge anyone to prove me otherwise. In virtually every traditional compound in Ilori, and Ilori people live in compound, Agode. A space is often made available to quote and unquote the foreigner or the guest who sought it, which the Yoruba would call Ajoji, to dwell in the compound with his family and even become a member of the household with strict instructions from the progenitor never to dispossess the guest's family of the space assigned to them. The Ajoji of the Ilori compound are always in the fast lane to become Onile, such Ajoji comes all over Nigeria. In some cases, they are adherents of other religions. Virtually every household in Ilori, every compound in Ilori has this system. They attain Ilori identity, even taking Ilori tribal marks during the period when such marks were predominant. Even when such a person, in many cases, may not produce the compound baggage, it has not been entirely ruled out in some very rare circumstances. One of the knowledge imbibed in an Ilori child is the knowledge of plurality of religions. The Ilori child grows up knowing from many lessons he or she learned from the frequent words by Islamic scholars within the community who often would preach from the Quran chapters of Prophet Isa alayhi salam, who we know as Jesus, Moses, Musa, and tell stories of Maryam, Harun, Bilqis, and more. It is almost impossible for any Ilori child growing in traditional Ilori community not to understand the true human plurality and the idea that it was God's will to create human beings in different nationalities and ethnicities. Perhaps to crown this, and unlike what we have heard from other parts of the world, in the grassroots of Islamic knowledge in Ilori, every child, every kid from about 2 years old to adolescent to adulthood attend what we call Soliu. They obtain more knowledge about the people of other religions and how Allah Ta'ala and the Prophet of Islam want them treated. I remember one of the songs that instilled this knowledge in us, often sung in periods in Soliu, but also during the graduation ceremony, Walima, marking the successful completion of a chapter of the Holy Quran when children walk the streets in joyous celebration of Walima. It was a fire, Ababa Muhammadu, Ababa Muhammadu, Okeme, Awa Oba, Toreta Musau, Sabura, Alukura. There's no death in this world. We'll have met Muhammad alive. We'll have met Muhammad alive. Lots of them. We met no one alive. A Torah for Moses, Injila for Jesus, Zabura for Dawda, and the Quran for the great messenger Muhammad. We were embedded with a pluralist view of religiosity and celebrated religion. Islam recognized as religions of the books, and their adherents, people of the books, people of Moses and their early form of Judaism, people of David with the ancient Israelites, Judaism, Jesus, and people of Jesus, a Jew who practiced what has been described as Second Temple Judaism, now transformed into Christianity, formed after him, based on the belief in him as Messiah. And Muhammad, an Arab who practiced and taught Islam and regarded as the final prophet, final messenger of Allah. Basically, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The ethnic and cultural diversity of Ilorin cannot be found in any other city in Nigeria. The form of Ilorin plurality is unique only to Ilorin. A city where people with ancestries from Yoruba, the Hausa, the Baruba, the Nupe, the Kemberi, the Kanuri, are all in meetings and call Ilorin homes. Ilorin's identity and cultural performance reflect all these cultures and ethnicities. That is why many people within Ilorin prefer the name Ilorin rather than Yoruba or Hausa or Nupe. It is a plurality that has fixed into what I call Ilorin's Islamicity. There are three poles of Ilorin social mobilization and cultural engineering for change. They are culturally more effective in ensuring that the community moves to the direction desired, or that it changes itself or corrects itself from the abysmal pitfall it might fall into. And till date, and despite the age of Facebook and social media, those poles have not changed. In fact, social media is today becoming the poles platform for global dissemination. These three cultural engineering poles are: number one, wazi, or otherwise called public preaching. Number two, khutbah, whether on Fridays, prayers, or aging prayer. And the third is waka, the group waka time employed during the age of Grand Onima celebrating the completion of the Quran. This is the secret of Ilorin's cohesiveness. Whether Ilorin society seems to drag backward or there is a need to mobilize it, any or all of these will be the magic. The effectiveness is swift and total, from royalty to the Ilorin aristocrat to the elite and the downtrodden. Ilorin listen attentively to its public lecture, the public preaching, wazi. Ilorin listens attentively to its khutbah and to its waka. These combine the vibrancy of cultural milieu with the reference of Ilorin spirituality and Ilorin identity. The cultural plurality of Ilorin is rooted in the ways of Ilorin's unity around these three social poles. The performativity of the three poles enjoy itself to the inner feelings of an Ilorin and engage their inner ears the way they never happened with other Ilorin social performative elements. And there are so many of such elements that we cannot even exhaust here. Yet, the three poles lead as agents for change. I will briefly take these three poles, one after the other, and bring few examples to demonstrate their efficacy. The first one was public preaching. The most important Ilorin public preachers from Ilorin's inception, even before the formal amalgamation of clans within Ilorin into the Ilorin Emirate by Sheikh have made great changes in the nature and identity of Ilorin through wazi. The public preachers and their preaching can proudly claim glory for what Ilorin is today. Its peace, its unity, the Ilorin's texture and Ilorin's cultural materiality and its cultural temperament. There are public controls tools. They are public control tools, not remote, since the art of preaching is open, is public, and oftentimes it is spontaneous, even if there is no spontaneous improvisation like the performance of Ilorin traditional oral poetry. Public preachers are the revolutionaries of Ilorin, a city that started with all sorts of characters and traditional worshippers representing ethnic multiplicity and fused to become a cultural plurality of a Ilorin ethnicity with an Islamic identity. That is a revolution. It is only in Ilorin today that people have no bias to ethnic nationality. No. Whether Yoruba, Hausa, Baruba, Nupe, Kemperi, Godiri, Kanuri, whatever. You can go around Ilorin city and say to hell with these languages. And the Ilorin person will be amused looking at you with a smile. It is in the area of Ilorin's unity that no one can attack. Okay, you can go around Ilorin and the Ilorin person will be looking at you with amaze. It is in the area of Ilorin's unity that no one can attack with impunity. For you, if you want to attack Islam in Ilorin, that is the problem. If you just go around and say to hell with Islam, then people will talk. It's an area that you cannot go instantly without receiving a response. That you are without your brains, and the city will instantly warn you. Ilorin will unify in asking you to admonish an end to the person's exuberance. The presence of Ilorin is amazing. The display of a deep knowledge and pronunciation of the Quran, the display of the skills in the traditional Ilorin voice or Quranic recitation, depending on who is the preacher and what is his antecedents, the Arabiya voice, the Markazi voice, the Imam Bashir voice, the traditional voice, and so many others. Sometimes the several reciters during Wazi create a singing competition and get to an ecstasy of performance meditation that could draw applause of Allahu Akbar from the audience. Ilorin Wazi is not an ordinary performance. It is a den of performance excellence, even between the preacher and his set of assistants. Skills and knowledge are rewarded with an applause. It is during this moment that the preacher, as a strategy of grassroots mobilization, introduces poetry in Yoruba for granting a point, introducing another point. Let us see some examples of three of these Ilorin public preachers who are clear cultural revolutionaries. The first one I will use is Kokeu Kobere. Kokeu Kobere, you ti say ma o. Kokeu Kobere, you ti say ma. Kokeu Kobere, you ti say ma. Kokeu Kobere. He who failed to learn Islamic knowledge and failed to ask, how could he even know? It was the public preaching of Alpha Kokeu Kobere that became his nickname. Even his compound is popularly called Ile Kokeu Kobere, as he was mobilizing Ilorin people to find knowledge and to seek education. Mobilizing Ilorin people to recognize that ignorance was a disease and it's personal and social calamity, and that it was even a patriotic cause to find knowledge. And it would definitely be among Ilorin revolutionaries that take Ilorin to the status today of a well-educated city in Arabic and Islamic knowledge. It is rare to find any city, Nigerian city, that can compete today with Ilorin. He starts and ends his public preaching with Kokeu Kobere, before going ahead to focus on substance of his message in his long preaching, ensuring that short Kokeu Kobere has the deep meaning of his message. The second person is Muhammad Bashir Habibullah Adam. Olówó ayé ewu òní sí mi, ọlọ́lá ayé ewu òní sí mi, tálíkà ayé ewu òní sí mi. Kí ni ò jẹ́ olówó ayé lè ní sí mi? Owó tí mo ní ìkó máa tán kò jẹ́ kó lówó ayé lè ní sí mi. Kí ni ò jẹ́ ọlọ́lá ayé lè ní sí mi? Kí wọ́n fẹ́ràn mi, kí wọ́n ṣètè mi. Tí wọ́n bá bí mi, kí ni wọ́n máa wí? Kò jẹ́ kó lọ́lá ayé lè ní sí mi. kí ni òjẹ́ tálákà ayé lè ní sí, kí ni ó máa jẹ, kí ni ó máa bí lágbájá kí tó ní ó máa tó, kò jẹ́ kí tálákà ayé lè ní sí. The wealthy of the world have no rest, the powerful of the world have no rest, the poor of the world have no rest, whereas the wealthy of the world any rest. Why my wealth must never diminish has not enabled the wealth of the world any rest. Whereas the powerful of the world not have a rest, they should love me, they should obey me. If I'm asked why they misbehave, what will I say? Do not allow the powerful of the world rest. Whereas the poor of the world any rest, what will I eat? What will I drink? I also want to be rich as powerful, like the rich and powerful. We never allow the poor of the world rest. Muhammad Kamaluddin was a revolutionary in every way. He was said to have been introduced to public preaching from very young age by his teacher Tajul Adam. He introduced the Kewu tradition in learning. His teacher Sheikh Tajul Adam introduced him to public preaching from very tender age. And the whole learning community was mesmerized by him, his tenor of preaching, his Quranic voice. His oriented after, taking after the Jalabiya of the Arabs, and the audacity he had to introduce further education along the Arabic and Islamic education. He not only perfected the Arabiya voice and style of public preaching, he performed partnership with Arab institutions in Cairo and so on and so forth. I need to shorten my lecture. Then Sheikh Abdulrasheed Kàgbà fún Ọlọ́run ìsinmi o, kàgbà fún Ọlọ́run ìsinmi ni, kàdàrà ṣe kọ̀lá ìgbà, kàgbà fún Ọlọ́run ìsinmi. Àìgbà fún Ọlọ́run ìyọnu ni o, kàgbà fún Ọlọ́run ìyọnu, kàdàrà ṣe kọ̀lá ìgbà, kàgbà fún Ọlọ́run ìsinmi. To accept God's wish is to have peace. To accept God's wish is to have peace. Destiny cannot be used to accept. And so on and so on. The great revolutionary of Ilani, who carried the name of Ilani globally as a scholar, a preacher, an administrator, and community leader, Sheikh Abdulrasheed Na'allah is a global scholar. He was a global scholar as a young man. Acquired knowledge from scholars from both within and outside Ilani, was a passionate teacher and a social and a global scholar. And among his most popular schools, Darul Ulum, Agege, the Marikans, he was an incredible public preacher and orator who used public preaching to revolutionize character and wake up passion for knowledge and public preaching. He was an author that published mostly internationally and whose works are read in universities and educational institutions. For example, the University of Ilorin taught his books and invited him to campus. And one of his pupils was the first professor of Arabic at the University of Ilorin. He mobilized Muslims in southwest Nigeria and cleared a group of alfas and imams of southwest and Edo and served many years as its Secretary General, guiding Muslims, communities, and so on. I think I better shorten this. It's a very long one. He's author of so many books all over the world. He acknowledges human beings to know that Allah's destiny cannot be changed. Number two, Kutuba. For a long time after the establishment of Ilorin Emirate, the only place in Ilorin where Ilorin people attended Juma service and listened to Kutuba as a city was the one and only central mosque, and that one and only prayer ground. Every other village or town also had their own central mosque and Eid ground. The importance that Ilorin people attach to Kutuba is rooted in its religious and spiritual significance as a form of important reminder of God's purpose for creating man on earth. The chief imam of Ilorin, popularly called Imam Fulani, used the occasion to admonish what is good and forbid what is bad in behaviors and acts of worship, and so on and so forth. I need to shorten this. The multiplicity of Jumat mosques in Ilorin city introduced more diversifications and allow people to go to any Jumat mosque of their liking, either due to closeness to their house or due to the more convenient Jumat prayer time of the mosque. Also, and so forth and so forth. The 10th chief imam of the Lori brought enormous modernization and enabled his pulpit to play more effectively the role that Islam has highlighted for khutbah every Friday and during Eid prayers. He was very well prepared for his role as chief imam and as Islamic scholar and leader. Imam Bashir studied under Maulana Sheikh Muhammad Bashir, with whom he also developed some outstanding relationships. 3 of his connections to Muhammad Kamaluddin were academic connection as Kamal's student after he completed his earlier studentship with Sheikh Abu Bakr Sakama and enlisted at Al-Azhar Al-Sharif Ogidi and met on his first day at Al-Azhar Sheikh Muhammad Kamaluddin Al-Adab, who named him Muhammad Bashir instead of Bashar. The name will probably be as today. And the second connection was after he had been Toban at Chief Imam of Lori as a co-leader of the Lori Emirate Council, within which Kamaluddin was the oldest scholar of the Emirate. And the third was the committee on the planning and construction of the Lori Central Mosque, to which Sheikh Kamaluddin was chairman and the Chief Imam a key member. He met many teachers and students at Al-Azhar. Notable of them, Oluwasi Abaye and Imam Aliaga. I think I better go to the next one. From the Royal Directive of Mertaba, the 11th of Ilorin, the Chief Imam introduced the Yoruba translation to his khutbah. Every Friday, the booming population that attend the Central Mosque not only hear the beautiful voice of the Imam's recitation of the Quran, whether or not they speak Arabic, or can translate Arabic or Quranic words, they can now get its meaning directly from the official khutbah translator. The Imam, I'm cutting quite a lot. The Imam constantly aims to douse tension in the community from social, political, financial, and other matters in an effort to classify the topics covered by Imam Bashir Soleh in his khutbah into 5. The following responses I got, and let's look at it. If you classify his topics usually into 5. The first one is Tawheed, monotheism. Second is Adab teaching. Third is Akhlaq morals. Third is Hakam rules. And the 5th one is Muamalat management. Tawheed, which is the number 1, also takes predominant focus in attention in the khutbah. Since his turban at Chief Imam of Ilorin in 1983 by the 9th Emir of Ilorin, Sultan Ailabu Gambari Mohammed, to the last Friday, November 21, 2025, this last Friday, Imam Bashir Soleh has delivered more than 2,000 Jumat khutbahs and 86 Eid khutbahs. And he has just begun to record even more greater achievements on this seat of his forefathers, with Allah's rahmah for good health, long life, and guidance. Amin meta. Waka. The most engaged form of oral performance in London is the group Waka. And we all know Waka. I cannot give a long example because there's so many of them. You will remember the Waka. You remember Latin Adeka. These 3 poles perform wonder when employed for religious harmony, cultural preservation, and engineering and community service. Then let's look at what most of the people doing Wazi, our Imam, Jommy Friday Mosque, and the Waka, they all draw from the Quran and they draw from Hadith. What I've done here is to cite examples from the Quran of the kind of topics that you receive. Surah Al-Baqarah, freedom of religion. Surah Al-Hujurat, unity of humanity. Surah Al-Mumtana, kindness to non-Muslims. Surah Al-Kafirun, Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun, la a'budu ma ta'budun, wa la antum a'buduna ma a'budu. ولا نعبد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. There's no better words to advocate for peace equality state, while respecting religious differences than this one. It establishes that each person is free to practice their own faith and that there should be no compulsory or imposition beliefs. This, without doubt, is another basis clearly established by Islam for human freedom. And there are so many of them. And oftentimes, in Wasi, most of these things are repeated to Ilorin audience. If you look at Hadith, so many. Kindness and good relations with all people. Hadith Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. Prohibition of harming non-Muslims. Sunnah Abu Dawud. Protection of non-Muslims, non-Muslim citizens, especially within Islamic ruling authority. Kindness and justice toward all people. Also Abu Dawud, and so many. The Prophet standing at a particular time for Jewish funeral. All these are emphasized to Ilorin people. Even using waka sometimes, singing about it, popularizing about it. It led to an Ilorin that is so big in terms of its respect of difference, that loves other people, that knows that it is Allah that has created us in plurality. And there's no way you can force anything rather than accept what Allah has created. Conclusion. Ilorin is lucky to have inherent community structures that mobilize the everyday people for religious harmony and community service. And I take bold to say that hardly is there other Nigerian community that have repeated that. I will definitely push for more work to preserve the Ilorin culture, some of which are disappearing very fast. I have in mind our traditional side culture, our Kayo festival, our Children's Ramadan Mosque, and many outdoor performances that embed strong Ilorinism. My fear is that if we jettison these things simply because we feel they are not important to our so-called modern lives, I have news for you. The Chinese and the Japanese still hold on to their traditional performances and cultural identities, including their local languages, and we are not more modern than these two people and communities, including their local. Neither have we attained more technological and economic advancement than China and Japan, yet we want to be more British than Britain. Perhaps it is time the IEPPU employ our preachers and the Jumat imams and the good work artists to help to mobilize our people towards retaining our proud identity. As for the continual banditry, religious bigotry, and increasing lack of harmony across communities in Nigeria, we need a national dialogue to address this. I believe that the day Nigerians decide that enough is enough, it will be nipped in the bud. It needs for us to be tolerant of each other, see ourselves as brothers, as our brothers and sisters keeper, stop the hate. We are all equal citizens of this country, and we must share our resources and become our brothers and sisters keeper. The NYC scheme, as for many years ensured Nigerians know ourselves, thus we must stop humanization and see every Nigerian as a brother. We must correct all wrongs and allow national heritages to be truly representation. Again, the spirit must be fairness and equality, and no one is a second-class citizen in Nigeria. In our state, we must welcome our guests with open hands, with passion and enthusiasm. Nigerian citizens, whether Fulani, Yoruba, Angas, or Igbo, whenever they are in Nigeria, must not feel threatened or made to pay for the purpose of sins of their ancestors. If we must forge unity and shut down divisions, we must dialogue among ourselves in Nigeria. We must solve our problems ourselves as citizens and not open to any ridiculous foreigners whose ambition is to steal our gold and minerals. Forget that we talk in terms of religious saviors. The same religion they worship when they enslaved and colonized Africans. When they manufactured the purported genocide in South Africa, they threw their doors open and told the white South Africans to migrate. The Nigerians of similar religion are enough for migration, even if Nigerians reject it. I mean, they told the South African whites to come to America, but they only said they are bringing war to Nigeria. They didn't tell them to migrate because they are black. We must not be deceived. We have a lot of lessons to learn from the Lord's spirituality, the Lord's plurality. The Nigerian government, as an emergency, should do a census of the Nigerian citizens in the bushes and the forests. How can a nation not know its citizens? Nigeria will not know people in the forest. It doesn't make sense to me. And show them that they are citizens too, but importantly, count them, know them, and while eliminating the criminals.